This is Thieves Cant Capers, unlocking the systems behind the stories. Welcome back to Thieves Cant Capers, our deep dive into systems, into mechanics. We have begun looking at MCDM's Draw Steal. Last week, it was all about getting familiar with core mechanics. But this week, we're moving on. I'm Jeremy Shane.
And I'm Chris White.
This is Thieves Cant Capers, the Draw Steal job. This episode, Chris, we're going to take a look at chapters 2 and 3 in Book 1, Heroes. So making a hero, what that looks like, and we're going to take a closer look at the Ancestries, the 12 different Ancestries featured in this first core rulebook.
This is fun stuff. Things that are always interesting. One of the first places I jump in a book.
Because we all want to make a character, right?
Right.
So that's the point that we're trying to get to. So if you're following along, you can open up your Draw Steal PDF. You don't have that physical book just yet. And you can flip over to Chapter 2, Making a Hero. Chris, this chapter begins by talking about what should a first session of Draw Steal look like. Maybe you're the director and you've gotten your friends together, you've conned your family into playing with you, and now you're ready to play some Draw Steal, but how does the book recommend we get started? The book really highlights the importance of that session 0. It points directors to more advice in chapter 15. That's the For the Director section, but here it does lay out a few suggestions. It says that you should, consider what safety tools your group wants to use.
Yeah, it's just being aware of the things that make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Things they don't want included in their games.
Yeah, if you're playing with new people that you don't know very well, this is probably a conversation to have. If you're playing with your old gaming group, whatever rules you've been using probably will apply here. They say discuss the campaign setting, any major themes that the director may want to introduce. Discuss any options that might be limited, ancestries that might not be available in the setting. Chris, on the Saturday show, you gave us the lore dump, and we took a look at the cosmology of the Draw Steal.
Right.
What do they call it? What's their multiverse called? The timescape.
The timescape.
And, there's some kind of borderline, well, not even borderline, there's some sci-fi elements in there, right? At least science fantasy.
Yeah, there can be. Yeah.
There can be. So maybe we're not going to include that in this game. The director needs to be upfront about that. Nobody's making a character from the upper plane.
Yeah, it's just setting those expectations, and it's also making sure somebody doesn't create a character that doesn't fit.
Yeah, that would be the worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. Players can also tell directors what they would like to experience in the campaign. Throw a wish list out there. These are the stories I'd like to experience. And then the book says, hey, make characters together. Do it there at the table so that you can tie backgrounds together. You can maybe pick some character classes and ancestries that complement each other really well. Kind of start thinking about those synergies that are going to come into play like in combat. Start thinking about that now. And then if there's time, it says the director ought to run a short encounter as part of that session 0. Let's throw some bandits at you and just see what happens with this group. So a solid session 0, good advice there. And then the book, chapter 2, is going to lay out the steps of making those heroes together. They say that they present these steps in what they believe is the best approach, but they note that the order is really just their suggestion.
Right.
It's not a rule. So the first step, they say just kind of think, conceptualize your character. As you build your concept, you're thinking about, how is this hero going to fight? If this is a game about fighting monsters, and the book is very explicit with that, then how does my hero fight? Do they wield weapons? Are they more of a magic user? What are they good at outside of combat? Mm-hmm. What's their personality like? The book just asks you to think about the sort of character you want to role play. Mm-hmm. And once you've done that, it says, pick your ancestry. There are 12 to choose from in this book. We'll likely see more options in future supplements, but you've got 12 here, and that's going to be the focus here in just a bit. After you've chosen your ancestry, you're going to pick your culture, Ancestry is going to determine your physiology. Culture is going to determine like how you were raised, the community that raised you.
Right.
Might not be the same as your ancestry. Right. So this is where your languages come from. Some of your skills are going to come from your culture.
Yeah, I think it's the example of a woad elf raised in woad elf society is going to be very different from a woad elf raised in a human society.
You've picked your ancestry and your culture. Now your career. What did you do before becoming a hero? And your career is going to give you a number of aspects, more skills, an inciting incident that led you to adventure, and a perk that lets you further customize your hero. Of course, you've got to pick your class. That is going to be the most impactful choice in terms of gameplay mechanics. Your class will determine your characteristic scores, your stamina, your recoveries, more skills, your abilities. You're going to pick your kit next. That provides your equipment, a fighting style, as well as a bonus to one or more of your stats. And there's a note here that your class might grant you a kit. You get to add free strikes. Free strikes are combat abilities that you're using outside of your turn. That's one way that Draw Steel tries to keep gameplay dynamic and keep players engaged even when, they're not holding the talking stick, so to speak. Right? Basically, this is your opportunity attack in a sense, if you want to put it in 5e or D20 fantasy terms.
Right.
Then you add a complication. Now, the game notes that these are optional. Some people really don't like the idea of giving their hero any sort of drawback. But if you like a well-rounded character, a three-dimensional character.
Honestly, these are oftentimes the things that make the most memorable characters. Sometimes it's not your strengths that define you, but your weaknesses. So, I mean, again, it's an optional rule, and it's not for everybody. But I think there could be a lot of character depth that comes out of this.
After that, you determine details. This is where you tie everything together. What's your hero's name? Do they have any scars? Do they have tattoos? What narrative is created by the choices that you have made to this point? How do you see it all kind of fitting together? If you come up with a concept in that first step, this is where you dive a little deeper into that concept and you get a little more granular. And then finally, the last step here, the book says, make connections. And this is why they stress the importance of building characters together. Build those connections between the characters. If the heroes start off knowing one another, then what are those relationships? The book does provide a nice list of prompts for consideration. Which party member saved your life? Another hero is teaching you a new skill. Who is it? What are they teaching you? Yeah, things that you can grab onto if you need some inspiration.
Right. This is a lot better than random strangers sitting at different corners of the inn, staring each other down.
Right. Where did that trope come from?
I don't know. I've seen it in action, though.
Right. Is it a fixation on, well, this is the start of the campaign, so all things must start here?
I guess.
Even our relationships.
I've seen a whole first session be taken up with a party that was reluctantly trying to come together and almost working against the game master.
Hey, wouldn't it be more fun if we could just start playing?
Yeah, if your characters are already comrades, you get around the whole trust issue, all those dramatics that really aren't necessary or helpful.
We're still in chapter 2 here. A traditional aspect of character creation in pretty much any RPG is gear. Draw Steel reminds us in this chapter of that cinematic keyword. It is not concerned as much as some RPGs are with your gear. That may not jive with you, right? Maybe you love your shopping expeditions, but Draw Steel does not expect you to keep meticulous lists of equipment. As an adventurer, you are assumed to have with you the items that you need, and that means both of the standard variety, torches, a rope, a backpack, and skill-based. Like if your character has the pick lock skill, the game just assumes you have lock picks. You're not going to have this situation where I'm going to try to pick the lock. Well, do you have lock picks on your character sheet?
Right.
Well, no. Well, then you can't. Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
In what world is that fun?
Right.
But I've been at that table.
Oh, yeah. I think it's Does your lack of lock picks, is it a part of the story? Were your lock picks taken from you when the guards captured you?
An important distinction to make.
Yeah.
Draw Steel does point out that while it does not expect you to keep lists and be meticulous, the director has the liberty to include narrative elements like your gear did get taken from you.
Right.
And so in a story beat, it can matter, but the default is that it does not. The chapter concludes with notes on gaining levels or heroic advancement. So when that happens, your stamina will increase. You gain new class features or abilities. The game gives us options for XP-based advancement. That's the standard. There's milestone advancement, in which they recommend that the players know what milestone they're trying to hit before they can level up. And then even if you are using XP, the game also provides adjusted XP advancement tables to either speed up the rate of advancement or slow it down, if you want to give half XP or double XP. So up to you. And finally, the game tells you that you can forego both XP and milestones altogether, and you level up simply when the director says so. You got a preference here?
I'm kind of a DM says so.
Yeah.
I don't like tracking all that stuff.
Yeah.
And when it feels right, it feels right.
Yep. So in a sense, it's milestone, but it's kind of milestones behind the screen.
Yeah, it's usually when it's like, hey, we accomplished something big. We're going to have some downtime and rest.
Yeah.
Level up.
That is Chapter 2, all the steps for making heroes. And we are moving on to Chapter 3, all about Ancestries. We've got some preliminary material before we actually get to the main event.
Right.
Before we get to any of the individual ancestry descriptions, the chapter devotes some pages to lists of example names for each ancestry. You get male and female, gender neutral, surnames where it's applicable, epithets where it's appropriate. Not every ancestry traditionally uses surnames, right? You get a little bit of a lore dump in this section just by reading the different names. We also get a table of average ancestry measurements, like what's the average height and weight, as well as life expectancy for each of the 12 core ancestries. I did notice in that we've got tall elves, which
we do have tall elves.
I'm in favor of.
Yes.
I've never liked my elves, the average elf shorter than the average human.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange choice.
In my mind, it's flipped. This chapter's introduction wraps up with an explanation of ancestry traits. And these are going to be key when we start looking at each individual ancestry. Essentially, each ancestry features one or more signature traits. And in addition to those, which are free, you select that ancestry, you get that signature trait. In addition to those, there's a list of what they call purchased traits. You've only got a limited budget. Class or your ancestry determines how many points you have to spend, and then each of these purchased traits has a point value, 1 point, 2 points, and once your budget's run out, you're done choosing. This is a great way, I think, to kind of customize heroes, make distinctions between them. If you've got, three dwarves in the party, that's okay. They probably look and behave slightly differently based on these choices right at the start.
Yep. It's just one more area of customization.
Okay, and now I feel like we've eaten all of our vegetables, right? We've eaten our RPG veggies.
That's right.
And now we can finally get to the meat here.
That's right.
All right, so the 12 ancestries. Each entry here is prefaced with a small chunk of lore right at the top that captures that ancestry's place in the default setting. No mechanics here, but it's essential information for players role-playing in that default setting, if that's what you're going with.
Right.
All right. After that, Draw Steel takes an interesting approach here. There's a short piece of fiction that stars some hero of that ancestry.
Yeah, it's like a scene featuring one of those different ancestries. I thought this was interesting as well. Like it kind of puts you in that mindset. You're not necessarily going to be playing this character, but you can see what a typical member of this ancestry, how they might react to a situation. Yeah. It was interesting.
I think they're pretty useful. For one, it's yet another way to receive some lore.
Right.
Actually, what it does is make that lore concrete, right? It brings it to life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't read any lore at all to this point, I think it kills two birds with one stone, right? You can learn about the setting and the ancestries right there.
That's
so
true.
If you've read no other lore, read that little bit of fiction there. So then after the lore dump at the top, followed by the fiction, which is, again, a lore dump of its own, you finally reach that Ancestries list of traits, the signature trait, as well as the options for purchase traits. So with that, let's take a closer look at the 12 Ancestries. And the first one, we're just going in alphabetical order, just as the book does. We'll start with devils.
Straight to the devils.
They are native to the 7 cities of hell. They have red or blue skin. Each devil is born with a hell mark, horns, tails, wings, something of that nature. They're involved in bureaucratic trade with mortal souls for the archdevils that they work for. They work as brokers. So when they're summoned to like the prime world, they are now acting as a broker for their archdevil.
Mm-hmm.
But if anything happens to the summoner, well, this could be good or bad depending on the particular devil. They're going to be stuck. They're going to be stuck in the world to which they were summoned.
Yeah.
And some of them like that just fine. Others might be desperate to get back to the 7 cities of hell.
Get back to work.
Right.
But it sounds like a lot of the players are going to be ancestors of that original broker that got stuck here. It may not be them that was involved in that interaction, but it might have been their great-great-grandmother.
So the signature trait that any player who wishes to play a devil hero, you're going to get Silver Tongue. It gives you an interpersonal skill. You get an edge on tests to discover NPC motivations and pitfalls during negotiations. So that's yours by default. As for purchased traits, you get 3 points to spend. It looks like most of the devil purchase traits are coming in at either 1 or 2 points. Like for 1 point, you could have a barbed tail, right? And there's some mechanics that go with that. Or you could have glowing eyes. This is kind of cool. Whenever you take damage from a creature, you can use a triggered action to deal that creature psychic damage, 1d10 plus your level, just because of your eyes, right? You want to spend a little more, spend 2 points and have some wings.
Yeah. I like the impressive horns. I like that one.
Your
horns are just bigger than everybody else's. You're better at saving throws because your horns are bigger.
Any final thoughts on the devil ancestry?
I think they look interesting. I like the lore here. It's funny because there's some evil, obviously, but it just feels like a big corporation almost. You know, you're a cog in this big machine, this soul churning machine. So
I think it could be fun. We move on to the Dragon Knight. This is your ancestry that is of draconic heritage, right? A deep connection to oaths, ancient draconic traditions, and knighthood. They were once righteous figures of justice until the coming of the big bad, Ajax. Mm-hmm. Their signature trait, it's really cool, Worm Plate. Essentially, you get damage immunity to your choice of a damage type, and you can change that after you finish a respite. Now, what are we looking at in terms of purchased traits? What are some options that might be good for the Dragon Knight?
I mean, Dragon Breath is on the list. That's pretty considerable.
Yeah, I think I would want that.
There's sort of a defender feel with something like Draconian Guard, where you can reduce the damage to an ally when they're being attacked. So certainly could be appealing to a lot of different play styles.
I want to take a look at Draconian Pride here. Now, this will cost you 2 points, so you've got 3 to spend. You let loose a mighty roar to shake your foe's spirits. There's a magical burst attack that goes along with this. You're making that power roll, your 2d10. You're adding either your might or your presence. Again, that's going to range anywhere from +5 as far down as -5. And you're going to get one of those tiers of results, 1, 2, or 3. A tier 1 result, it's just going to deal 2 damage. But at tier 2, that damage goes up to 5, and you get to push your enemy. At tier 3, 7 damage, you push them a little further.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first time that we've seen here's an ability that you can use in combat that's going to have a damaging effect. What do you think of fixed damage numbers here as presented?
Well, it certainly simplifies play. I mean,
Right?
it speeds things
You're
up a
never
little.
rolling for damage.
You know what's going to happen. It's reliable. I like it. There may be other people that don't. You know, some people just enjoy rolling dice and having the different results, but I like it.
After the Dragon Knights, we move on to the Dwarf. Children of the Elder God. His name is Ord, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Their flesh is infused with stone. They are renowned engineers, technologists. They take pride in their god's creation. Their signature trait is runic carving. You can carve a rune into your skin, 10 minutes of uninterrupted work, and then you can activate the magic within your body to do cool things with the rune, right? You can have a rune of detection. You can have a rune of light, a rune of voice, and all of these let you do different things. It just depends on the rune that you chose.
Mm-hmm.
You can have one rune active at a time, and you can change or remove a rune with another 10 minutes of work. Kind of cool. Again, their dwarves have literal stone skin, so to be able to carve runes into it, that's some cool flavor there.
Yeah.
But let's say that as the book encourages you to do, you depart from the default and you reskin this, you reflavor it to something maybe that you're more familiar with. Maybe you just want to make Gimli.
Right.
Gimli is not this dwarf
No,
that we're describing,
no,
right? This is
it's quite a departure.
Using the mechanics tied to this ancestry, could you still pull off that classical dwarf feel?
I think so. I mean, they're tough, right? I mean, that's the basic idea. I don't think the abilities are that far off. I mean, yeah, you're not going to carve a rune into Gimli, but you could surely, tattoo a rune onto his flesh in 10 minutes.
Sure.
I think it would be very easy to reflavor this if you didn't like that aspect. Because it is, more than some others, it's a pretty big departure.
Purchased dwarf traits, you get 3 points once again. Most of these are 3 points that you get to spend, with the exception of a couple ancestries.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just point those out whenever they come along. But you could purchase Great Fortitude. There's another called Stand Tough. You can just withstand the blows of your enemies. Your might score is basically upped by 1. I really like Spark Off Your Skin.
Yeah.
Again, playing back into the stone skin aspect, your stone skin affords you potent protection. You have a +6 bonus to stamina, which increases as you level up. It's
I kind of like the Stone Singer. I like the idea of it.
Now, what does that do?
You have a connection with the earth, and you're singing to the earth and like literally reshaping and moving the stone. It seems a little more like magically attuned than we usually see elves,
Dwarves?
we see dwarves portrayed in fantasy. We always see this with elves and trees and nature, but the idea of dwarves being able to move earth, in their own grumbling deep song. Yeah, I think that's kind of really flavorful. I like it.
I do too. Elves. The book offers 2 varieties of elves. We'll start with the woad elf. These are kind of eerie.
Yeah.
Strange. Fey ancestry, deeply connected to magical forests called woads. They're taller than humans, widely spaced eyes, long, twisting, bat-like ears. They see forests as their birthright. They're known for stealth and tracking, and of course there are all sorts of stories of children being snatched up by woad elves, right? So the flavor is certainly there. This is kind of classic Fae stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they might actually abduct children. They're different, right?
Yeah. They've got the signature trait, woad elf glamour. They can magically alter their appearance to better blend in with their surroundings. You'll get an edge on tests made to hide and to sneak, and to tests made to search for you while you are hidden. Those take a bane. So you're helping yourself and penalizing others. So you are as sneaky as you want to be as a woad elf. And then, of course, the list of purchased woad elf traits, that's going to feed into that even more. Forest walk, swift, you have a higher speed, or otherworldly grace. Any of these purchased traits that stand out to you?
The woad defends, the thorny vines, binding your foes. So
Little battlefield control,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Here's one that's non-combat related. Revisit memory is really neat. Essentially, they get an edge on tests made to recall lore.
Mm-hmm.
They just have these memories that go so far back, and
Right.
they say that accessing memories is as easy as living in the present.
Just a little bit of the lore on the Woad Elves. The Woads are sort of not as constrained by the rules on time as other places. They're very chaotic places, and it's where the Woad Elves call home. So they don't necessarily adhere to the same rules as everyone else.
All right, so you've got your Woad Elf. You've also got the High Elf. They are the children of solar celestials, attuned to innate magic. They value art, beauty, ancient knowledge. Their history speaks of a better age, right? Mm-hmm. They've got the signature trait. They've got their own glamour. Makes others perceive you as interesting and engaging. I guess by default you are not, but people certainly think you are.
Yes, this is the Riz.
So they get an edge on presence tests using the flirt or persuade skills. It makes you appear and sound slightly different to each creature you meet, since what is engaging to one might be different for another. That's really interesting. So two people know you, but they know different people.
Right. Yeah.
And then they purchased traits for the High Elf: glamour of terror, graceful retreat, high senses, otherworldly grace. I mean, these are, again, all themed towards this, child of the Celestials.
The High Elves are really almost the answer to the Devils, right? They're sort of the other end of that spectrum as far as their ancestry goes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you have a favorite purchased trait for the High Elves?
I do like the glamour of terror, to be honest. The idea that you would hit one, it's like, how dare you? And you're filled with fear, forced to recognize that authority that they have, Yeah. It's you could almost imagine the look they're giving you when you strike one of them. So I kind of like that.
All right, so there's your elves. Next, I'm not sure how this is intended to be pronounced. I've been saying Hakan, the Hakan.
I have also been saying that.
Well, that's what we'll go with. These are the descendants of stone giants. They are the biggest ancestry, playable ancestry in the book, standing over 9 feet tall, bodies of organic stone. I don't know how that's differentiated from the dwarves exactly, but they also have stone skin.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cool bit of lore here about how, like, once upon a time, they bargained with a trickster god to gain the ability to see into the future. And he agreed.
Yeah.
But the only thing that they can see in the future is the moment of their own demise.
Yeah, and it's never boring.
Right. No. And it can come upon them at any time.
Right. Yeah, I know that's why they're regarded as an ill omen, because when you see one, at some point, it's going down.
Mm.
They're going to die, and it will not be boring. I think the example of the book is they never choke on a grape. It's always right. Something dramatic.
This could build in some great story at the table. We've been talking memorable character deaths on our Saturday show. Here's an ancestry that is encouraging you to create that memorable death at the table.
Yeah, it says the only Hakan the average human meets is one trying to fulfill their doom.
Right.
Wow.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool, actually.
Right. Their signature trait, simply big.
Yeah.
While most humanoids are size medium, you are large.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then purchased traits. The first one here is called All is a Feather.
Mm-hmm.
You are exceptionally strong. You gain an edge on tests made to lift and haul heavy objects, right? All is a feather.
Mm-hmm.
That's poetic. I like that. Doom sight, like if you want to have that vision of your demise, they give you some guidelines there. Work with your director to kind of predetermine an encounter in which it's going down, right?
Yeah.
And then there are a host of guidelines to inform that conversation that you have. So I'm kind of drawn to the Hakan. I think these are cool.
Man, Doomsight just almost feels mandatory, doesn't it?
Right?
It's like, why am I playing this with this character if I'm not going to have this moment?
Other choices that will let you, impose some forced movement or up your fortitude, things of that nature. Everything that makes sense for a 9-foot tall hero with stone skin.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we are on to vanilla humans. Or are they vanilla?
No, they're not as vanilla as a lot of other games would portray them.
No, they are the most numerous ancestry in Orden and in other worlds of the timescape. They exhibit real-world diversity, so that's MCDM's way of saying whatever type of human you see on planet Earth right now, you can see in Draw Steel.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that makes them unique is that they can sense supernatural energy. The signature trait, Detect the Supernatural. Until the end of your turn, you know the location of any supernatural object or any undead or construct or creature from another world within 5 squares. Now, what do you think?
Yeah, I love it. And here's why. In every game, it feels like the elves are attuned to the forest and the dwarves are attuned to the earth.
Yeah.
And the humans are clueless and they get an extra skill point, you know? And I love the fact that it's like, you know what? Even the elves are like, we don't sense what you sense. Like they have something that's their own that makes humans unique instead of just I'm the generic ancestry for the setting. And
right.
so I really like it. I don't know how powerful it is, how much it would come up in play,
right.
but I think it's neat.
And you know what? In a sense, it serves to underscore the normality of humans,
mm-hmm.
right? We're so normal that we can sense when anything is off.
Hey, that's right. That's exactly what it is, isn't it? We are so basic.
So that's the signature trait, purchased human traits. This is where you see some of those more recognizable D20 fantasy human characteristics showing up. Oh, they're a determined folk. They persevere.
I like it. I think it makes humans a little more fun.
All right, from there, we delve a little into the strange that Draw Steel brings to the fore. I've been saying mnemonic. I know that on the Saturday show, whenever you talked about these folks, mnemonic, was that your pronunciation?
I was saying mnemonic, but I think I like mnemonic better.
Yeah?
I think I'll just go back and forth a lot.
Yeah, that's likely. So these are like machine people. They come from Axiom, which is the plane of uttermost law, made of metal and marble and glass, and don't they have like silicon skin?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Right? An interesting bit of their lore is that when they are outside of Axiom, say they've come to Orden, they experience world sickness. And essentially, they feel emotion.
Yeah. So I think what's going on here is that in the stronger planes of law, like where they're from in Axiom, people have control of their emotions.
Well, they're machine people.
Right. So I know Colville has mentioned that they get angry, but it's because they choose to be angry. So you can imagine when you lose control of those emotions, how strong it is. Yeah. It's the same way that a primordial, if they were to come into this world, they would be like, why can't I change? Why is everything so static? It's an alien environment to them.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a nice expression of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool mechanic. Their signature trait is fall lightly. Your silicone body is low in density. Whenever you fall, you reduce the distance of the fall by a couple squares. So that's helpful. They have a second signature trait as well. This one gets 2. It's called lightweight. Now, your body is light for a creature of your height. Whenever another creature attempts to force move you, you treat your size as one size smaller than it is. So that would be to your detriment, right?
I would think so.
Well, unless it's an ally that's trying to move you for purposes of good. Then it could be to your
It could
advantage.
be.
I don't know.
I do have to say, of all the signature traits, these seem the lamest to me. I'm not going to lie. It's like, really? If I just don't fall all the time?
It's very situational.
Yeah.
They also get 4 points to spend on their purchased traits. Yeah. So that's gonna compensate a little bit. Chris, I figured you would like the first one here. I am law.
Yeah. The name alone
right.
is great.
You need a shirt. Your lawful nature and quick reflexes mean you give no quarter to creatures trying to get past you. Enemies cannot move through your space unless you allow them to do so.
So that's some control in and of itself.
Big time. Yeah. So you immediately start thinking about, all right, what are the classes that really are going to feed off of that and let me do that even better, right?
Yeah.
They've got some other options that make them better at figuring out maps and documents to not be caught off guard. You can actually experience the world sickness if you take useful emotion. You know how to turn your pain into something your enemies feel. So, mnemonic, you're not impressed by the signature traits. Anything here that would pull you in with the purchased traits?
Well, I mean, I like a lot of it. There's a lot of battlefield control here. There's, you're changing movement. You have the surges. You can't be surprised with the unfazed. So I think they're interesting.
Next, we've got the orc, green-skinned, blood fire flowing through their veins. We'll talk about that blood fire. That ignites colorful lines in their skin during battle. Like you can see the fire raging within them, right?
Yeah.
Their signature trait it's called Relentless. Anytime a creature deals damage that leaves you dying, you get to make a free strike against any creature. If that creature is reduced to 0 stamina by that strike, you can spend a recovery and keep yourself going. That's pretty cool. This is a game about keeping going anyway, about pushing forward. Here we are with the orc that is that in spades. Purchased orc traits, you've got your blood fire rush. So that magic that's coursing through your veins, it's going to make you run faster, right? You're going to get a bonus to your speed there. Or glowing recovery, your blood fire lets you regain your strength quicker than others. So it's a bit of flavor, it's a bit of lore, but they bring it forth in the mechanics as well.
It is interesting, though, that they, the passionate artisan.
That's where I was going to go next with this. Here's another really cool way to incorporate the blood fire.
Your passion for creation allows you to work longer and harder. So basically, when you gain your initial skills, you choose 2 skills from the crafting skill group. You gain a +2 bonus to those rolls effectively. Yeah. But it just demonstrates, how here orcs aren't perhaps the stereotypical orcs we've seen in other games. They're a little different.
All right, up next we have the polder. Short, average about 3.5 feet tall, with obscure origins. They resemble smaller humans. They are known for shadow melding. That's their signature trait that lets them flatten against a solid surface and actually become a shadow. So they have a second signature trait, much like the Hakan had big. Polders are small.
Small.
So they are literally size small. And then their list of purchased traits, we'll flesh them out. They get 4 to spend as well, 4 points. Any of these stand out?
Well, the shadow meld itself is, obviously that's a big focus, putting your back against the wall and becoming a shadow. It seems like you're sort of locked in place. You can't move or be force moved. You can't take a lot of actions. However, it does sound like you, especially if there's anything you summoned, you can have that act. It's interesting. I would like to see this in game. I struggled a little bit to see how it would be used effectively, but it could be really interesting.
They have access as well to things like nimble step, graceful retreat. These are all great options for a small fleet of foot hero. Anything else on the polder?
No, other than the fact that one of their purchasable traits is called Poltergeist, which I thought was pretty funny. So.
Yeah. Up next, we've got the Revenant, a creature that returns to the living world to complete maybe some unfinished business. Any ancestry can become a Revenant. And of course, they're often misunderstood, so they're often hunted, right? It's what would you do if you saw the living dead?
Right, you would burn them with fire.
Right.
Yeah.
You get a couple of signature traits. The first is former life. You're going to choose the ancestry that you were before you died. And then your size will match that ancestry. Your speed is 5. You don't get any other benefits from that ancestry. Your other signature trait is called tough but withered. All right, so you're going to get immunity to cold and corruption and some other damage types, but you're going to have a weakness to fire. You can't suffocate, and you also don't need to eat or drink to stay alive. Hey, perks.
Right.
Additionally, when your stamina reaches the negative of your winded value, you become inert instead of dying. You just fall prone. You can't stand. You continue to observe everything around you, but you can't speak. You can't take any actions, nothing like that. And while you are inert, if you take any fire damage, you will be destroyed.
I have become inert.
Luckily, you have not taken fire damage.
During a long session of watching Netflix, I once went inert for several hours, and but yeah, fortunately, no one lit me on fire. So
this is kind of a cool take. Pick any ancestry previously mentioned, and now, apply this skin, for lack of a better word, on top of that.
Yeah.
And go about that unfinished business. Any of the purchased traits stand out to you?
Well, I like bloodless. You can't bleed. It's not really flowing.
So there's a condition called bleeding in the game.
Right.
And you cannot be made bleeding. The undead influence is cool. I mean, it's basic. Your supernatural gifts allow you to influence other undead. You get an edge on reason, intuition, and presence tests made to interact with all undead.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. Like, I wonder now, and I don't know enough. I need to do some research on this, but how aware are the undead? Maybe those zombies are, if I can reason with them, that's kind of scary, right? Like, these things are maybe a little more self-aware than they are in other games.
And again, a Revenant probably will not feature in all campaigns, right? This is certainly a departure from traditional fantasy once again, but it's a cool option. And then finally, speaking of options that will not be a part of every campaign, we've got the Time Raider. Travelers of the Timescape. Time Raiders, also known as, I guess their real name is the Kuranzoi. Made up words we can pronounce.
Kuranzoi. Yeah, that sounds right to me.
We'll just stick with Time Raider, known for their psionic abilities. They have 4 arms. They have a singular ocular sensor instead of eyes. They are fiercely independent. They showed that whenever they rebelled against their creators. They loathe authority, and they are utterly without fear. Their signature trait is called Psychic Scar. Your mind is a formidable layer of defense. You have psychic immunity equal to your level. Kind of cool. And as far as purchased Time Raider traits, what do you see here that's good?
Well, I mean, Beyond Sight seems pretty neat. If you're doing some scouting, to be able to essentially see through thin walls. So I like that one. I mean, a lot of their detection abilities, pretty interesting.
There are a couple here, 4-armed athletics and 4-armed martial arts. If I'm playing a character that has 4 arms, I'm probably picking one of these that lets me make the most out of that. Get a boost on any check made to climb or swim, things like that. Your movement's enhanced. Or martial arts, right? You can take on multiple tasks at the same time. Use the grab or knockback maneuver against an adjacent creature, and you can target one additional adjacent creature. So, yeah, I mean, if you got 4 arms, use them.
I agree. I don't know how you feel about the design of this ancestry, but I had an immediate thought when I looked at them. You remember Goro from Mortal Kombat, the 4-arm guy?
Yeah.
I thought if he had a baby with Bebop from the Ninja Turtles,
yes.
And I liked them more after I realized that. So
you just have to see them through that lens.
They're different, though. I mean, they are definitely different. They are unique. But yeah, they look like a lot of fun, and I with the psychic powers and the additional limbs, could be pretty powerful.
Let's say you were going to make a character right now, and you had to choose one of these ancestries. What are your top choices? What are the 2 or maybe 3 that you're drawn to?
I think Revenant's interesting.
Yeah,
that type of character is always fun. I think. I'm not playing anything short. The polders are straight out.
Yeah.
The Dragon Knights are pretty cool.
They are. They really are.
But I also am kind of intrigued by the Woad Elves.
Yeah.
Like I kind of dig that wild connection to the Woads. So, but again, to be honest, I kind of like the Devils. I like that just soul crushing reliance upon order. It sounds fun.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That would probably be my top picks. What about you?
At some point, I'm making a human, but I agree. I'm drawn to the Dragon Knights. Earlier, I mentioned that I really liked the Hakan. So maybe those are my top 3 in consideration at the moment. Again, I know humans kind of normal, but I like that additional layer there of being able to sense the supernatural. That's cool.
I like it too.
Yeah. Next time, we're going to take a look at backgrounds in Chapter 4, what culture really means for your PC in this game in terms of language, environment, upbringing, as well as your character's career options, what they did before heroing. And then we're on to what we've really been waiting for. If Ancestries were high on our list, maybe this is the only thing that tops them, and that'll be classes. With that, if you want to respond, if you want to reach out, share your thoughts, what are your first impressions of the Ancestries in Draw Steel? Hit us up at Thieves Cant Cast, email thievescantcast@gmail.com. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Thieves Cant Capers. Don't forget, we'll see you this weekend for Thieves Cant as well on the Saturday show. Chris, any parting thoughts?
No. I'm going to go play Mortal Kombat with my Bebop action figure and get ready for some Draw Steel.
All right. Hey, we'll see you next time. It's been Thieves Cant Capers. So long.